Hello, beautiful women, and welcome to this 15-minute workshop on unlocking and releasing your innate self-expression and creativity. My name is Lisa Maria. I'm a women's coach for self-expression and also self-expression in the business context, content strategy, and digital marketing. I work with motivated women who are on a mission to spread the message they believe God has given them through their business or their ministry. And many such women are highly creative, even those who think they aren't. Maybe you're one of those. Maybe you know you're highly creative, but you're frustrated because you feel like you just can't get your creativity out. Or you might be in the situation where you think, oh, Lisa Maria, I wish I was more creative, but I'm not. And I want to assure you, before we get into anything further in this workshop, God created you to be highly creative. I 100% believe that. He's a God of creativity. In the beginning, God created artistry, creativity, making was the first act that took place in our universe. And everything around us in the world, though it has been bruised and tainted, we see things that are breaking down and wearing away. In the beginning, it was beautifully made and perfect, and I believe it will be one day again. The question becomes, how do we express that aspect of our DNA that comes from God, that creativity that He breathed into us as human beings, especially when you feel like it's stuck, when you feel like you just can't get the words out, when you sit down to paint and you hate everything on the canvas, you write something and you end up hitting delete after you've put in hours of work because you just don't like it. What then? What is going on? Or maybe you feel like you are out of ideas for your business or for your content. You have no idea what to say on social media to attract your God-intended audience. What is a woman to do? Well, I have 4 questions for you, similar to workshops I've already done on love and finances. I have 4 questions for you to help you think through what are some of the roots of these blocks so that you can then begin to dissolve those with the love of God, receive healing, and experience an incredible flow of creativity. And speaking of that, before we get into the questions, as a side note, I just used the word flow. And I want you to think of creativity as a flow. You see, creativity is typically associated with feminine energetics. Now, what does that mean? That sounds huge. It does not mean that creativity is something that only females have or that only feminine women have. Obviously, there are tons of men who are highly creative. But when you are working with creativity as a concept, as an idea, as a gift that you have to come into a place where you're able to relax and to let it flow from God through you out into the medium, whether that's a video, whether it's on the page, the canvas, to the person sitting in front of you, if it's spoken word or something like that, to your audience online. And we see a balance of 2 ways of being in the universe. That God said He created everything male and female. I believe that He also created a balance of energies, masculine and feminine. Masculine energy is striving, pushing, conquering, dominating. Feminine energy is predominantly receiving, relaxing, connecting, and flowing. Whereas masculine energy, think of it this way, masculine energy pushes, feminine energy flows. Now that does not mean that, again, that women only exhibit those characteristics or that men do. But many, if not most men, have predominantly masculine energy that they operate in. Many, if not most women, have predominantly feminine energy, and everyone has a mix of both. But with creativity, no matter what your gender or whether you prefer to think of yourself as more oriented toward masculine energy or feminine, either way, when you're working with creativity, it is about working with the feminine flow. And so these questions are going to help you unpack where flow might be blocked, where you might be striving and pushing and not really able to just receive and allow it to come through you. So here's the first question I want you to consider as we think about what might be blocking self-expression and creativity. First off, what was the prevailing attitude in the community or the family that you grew up in towards creativity? Say that again. What was the prevailing attitude towards creativity in the community or family, the context that you grew up in? I'll give you a few examples from my own life. I was very creative as a child. I didn't have any trouble letting ideas flow and channel through me. Actually, most children don't, unless they've been through severe trauma early on, and even sometimes children who have been. Most children are able to just make things and not worry about what people think, let their ideas flow. If they want the person to be green and the cat to be purple and the house to be orange, they just do it and they don't worry about it, and they're proud of what they create. But then social ideas start to impose on us. We start to hear things, notice that people approve of certain things and not of other things. And we find ourselves taking on those ideas. So for example, in the home I grew up in, it was very acceptable for me to be creative. It was encouraged. But when it came to having a career, I was encouraged to have a backup plan, a degree that didn't involve creativity so that I could get a real job. Now, the intention behind that belief was loving. It was to help ensure that I would always be financially taken care of. But the subconscious layer underneath that statement, the belief under that was that creativity is not a viable way to make a living. Don't put too many eggs in the basket of your creativity, because what are you going to do if you need money? Creativity and money don't go together. This is the essential message there. For many years, I operated under that. I was very stuck in my creativity. I kept taking jobs that I didn't like because they paid big bucks. And then I finally realized that I was going to be able to monetize my creativity, but I was going to have to discard that belief in order to do it. So I don't know what the belief was that you grew up with, or multiple beliefs. Maybe the people around you didn't have any use for creativity and you were seen as a daydreamer. Maybe you had highly creative parents, but they were always poor. And that goes back to money, and there's a money workshop that I'll link to this post that you can take a look at that as well. Whatever it was, there may be a block there. So I want you to delve into what were the beliefs that were communicated by the community around you about creativity. Even if your creativity was more or less appreciated when you were young, what was the belief underneath about the validity of creativity, especially in your adult life and in the adult world? The second question, how do you feel about being called feminine as a woman? Now, I realize this could be a controversial question. I work with a lot of women who, when they come to me, say, Lisa Maria, I'm a woman for sure, but I don't feel feminine. I feel more analytical. I have better friends who are men than women. I've always had a little trouble relating to women. And I'm just more in my head. And my masculine friends kind of fit that more, and so I connect with them. I understand how they think, and I can communicate with them better. I would have said the same thing for many years. I was definitely a woman, definitely, like the things that girls tend to normally like, who are somewhat feminine, but I didn't feel feminine inside. I could put on makeup, I could do my hair, wear my earrings, put on a pretty dress, and I would still kind of feel like I was walking around disembodied from that luscious, beautiful, elegant, flowing sense of the feminine. What I came to find out later is that my femininity had been deeply wounded due to various experiences in my childhood and young adulthood, and I was gonna have to reconnect with that. Again, this is not just about can you dress up and look feminine, but do you feel feminine? Do you feel luscious? Do you feel sparkly? Do you feel just deeply relaxed and in the flow? And how was femininity understood in the family that you came from? Again, Did your mom struggle with being the feminine partner? Was she always kind of put down because she was more in a nurturing role? Do you have women in your family who are very much pull them up by the bootstraps? I'm a jeans girl. I do a man's work. I can do it better than the boys. You know, if you come from that kind of background, there's nothing wrong with that kind of strength. Believe me, as a woman, you need strength. And we do need to use the bit of masculine energy that God has given us. But when you're out of tune with flow and you're in the I can work as hard or harder than a man mode, if that's the case, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to access creativity. In my part, when I was going through that season of my life, which was a very long season actually, I would try to strong arm my creativity. I would try to box it. I would try to check it off on a list and conquer it, and it would never seem to cooperate. And I didn't realize that I was actually tightening up and clenching and pushing away my creativity because I was relying on behaviors that were more masculine. No matter what I wore or what role I played in the family, my presence wasn't feminine. It was more oriented toward the masculine. So that's why I ask you, how do you feel? If you feel an about the idea of the word feminine or feminine energy, there's no right or wrong. The question is just why. And could it be that your challenge and discomfort with the idea of being feminine, of being softer, of being receptive, of being more in the flow, could your ideas about that be potentially shutting out that flow of creativity? The third question I have for you is, do you have a history of sexual trauma? And if so, what kind? Now, I realize this is a sensitive question. If it is upsetting for you to think about these things or to bring them up, I encourage you to do so within the context of a connection with someone who's safe and that you trust. If it's a pastor, a therapist, just a really good friend who's an excellent non-judgmental listener, whoever it is, if you find that a lot of discomfort, emotional discomfort is disturbed and dislodged by thinking about this question, then again, process it safely with someone. If you feel able to move forward with thinking about that question, if you've been through sexual trauma, the question I have for you then is, are there ways in which that you may have shut down your sense of spontaneity, your sense of sensuality, your ability to feel desire because of those experiences? Believe it or not, creativity, sexuality, reproductivity, in a sense, those three things are really, really linked together. And women who are really struggling with expressing themselves and with their creativity, getting their creativity out, oftentimes have a history of sexual trauma. In my case, I had a sexual dysfunction, a clinical sexual dysfunction that had started in babyhood due to some work the doctor had to do down in that, in that region, shall we say, when I was an infant. I was born with an abnormality down there. The doctors did some procedures to adjust that. And in the process, I was imprinted, my baby mind was imprinted with trauma in that area, and that actually followed me into adulthood. I won't go into the story. I'll link to the other blog posts. You could read about it. I've written the whole story out there, or a good portion of it. But during the years where my creativity was the most blocked, those were the years where I was not dealing with or addressing the sexual trauma I'd been through. And really the best thing you can do if you've been through that is to find a safe person and speak with them. It might not be a family member or someone who's been in your life for a long time. That person might not actually be a safe person to speak with about that event. But again, a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a pastor, someone who's trained to listen. Definitely, if you've not told that story, that silence can actually be constricting your creativity, because anything that has to do with relaxing, with flowing, with sensuousness and sensing and being in tune with what's happening in the moment may feel unsafe for you because you may be subconsciously carrying your body around in a fight or flight state. Even if that's become normal for you and it doesn't feel weird, it can happen. So that's why it's important to address the question of, have you ever experienced any kind of sexual trauma? And the final question is, what do you really want to say? What do you want to express? It could be in words, it could be through painting, it could be through dance, it could be in your business, it could be in your relationship. What do you want to express? Getting clear on what you really want to say, regardless of whether people are going to like it, regardless of what the outcome is going to be. If you could say anything you wanted and you knew it was completely safe, or you could express any idea and you knew it was completely safe, what would that be? Because understanding what your heart is longing to express will be a beacon of light for you on the path towards your creative expression. It's a motivational fire. For a really long time, I was trying to express and create the things I thought I should. I was interested in those things, but that wasn't the real heart's cry message that just gets me to sit down and work and create and express for the sheer joy of doing it and because I'm impelled somewhere on the inside. You have a message like that within you. And if you're not sure what it is, now is the time to pray, to get quiet, to be with yourself, to be at home in your body, and to really allow that to bubble up from deep within. Let the Holy Spirit speak to you. And that's something I would love to help you with. If you are watching this video, maybe you've watched all 3 of these mini workshops, and we've not had a session together, a one-on-one coaching session, I invite you to schedule that with me. And I will drop a link here as well in this blog post for you to do that. I look forward to speaking with you, helping you sort through some more of this one-on-one, tailored to your situation. And also, you feel free to hit up my contact page on my website, send me a message and let me know if this was helpful for you or if you have other feedback. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless you. See you at hellolisaMaria.com and have a great day.